Jesus specifically does not seem to be interested in actually acquiring power in the Gospels to any degree.
No, very modest guy.
In fact, seems as if he's
unassuming,
trying to escape.
as long as you accept him as in some way the Son of God. He never claimed to be exactly that, but spoke rather loquaciously about his father and suggested that he knew the way to paradise. As long as you accept these incredibly arrogant claims on his part, he's a very modest guy. Almost unassuming, self-effacement.
Well, the question
He's not
is,
like the Prophet Muhammad, really interested in material gain, warfare, spoil, conquest. No, not like that.
at all.
Gandhi, I think, was a bit more ambitious than you are.
But these arrogant claims, nevertheless, were not by him at least, turned into a doctrine or a church, as when he lived.
Well, his disciples couldn't have been Christians, for one thing, because they had not read any of the Gospels. They wouldn't have been able to, among other things, but written long after they were around. So they can be excluded as non-Christian from the start. And he too, because there is really no evidence, and this is conceded by most serious Christians too, that he desired to found a church or have one founded in his name. It's very plain that he expected his followers to see him again in their own lifetime.
And it's very clear that they expected to see him again in their own lifetime.
And they were wrong, weren't they?
Yeah.
So every time people say Christ is risen at Easter for the next 2,000 years, they're wasting their time and other people's. It's just not going to happen. And to sow the false hope that it will, though I don't think it's nice hope.
The Christ is risen thing is not about the second coming. It's a reference to something that's already occurred. I mean, the second coming is another doctrine.
Yes, but it's a promise.
Yeah,
if you can do it.
But I think you can get away. I think you could shear, if you were, Christianity at the second coming. And
all you have to believe in then is resurrection, which in the Bible occurs routinely. It's a commonplace.
I didn't expect to be talking about this, since we are.
No, but according to the Gospels, the graves were opened all around Jerusalem at around the time of the crucifixion, and many strode out of their tombs and greeted people in the streets. There were at least 2 people resurrected on request by the Nazarene, Jairus' daughter and Lazarus, who nobody interviewed. Was another extraordinary experience, and nobody finds about what of their subsequent life. Did they die again? We don't even know.
We don't know.
Were they resurrected in the form of the body that had previously died on them? We're not even told that. Resurrection, however, was not considered particularly remarkable at that time. But never mind, I concede all this. Jesus was born again, or rose again, I mean to say, from death. Doesn't prove one thing about the truth of his doctrines. No. Because resurrection is in all men. It doesn't vindicate the claim of someone who makes it.
Well, to my mind, the big, and I'm committing heresy throughout this entire conversation, but
and you're better for it.
For me, the incarnation is a much more central doctrine than the resurrection. The resurrection, in some ways, is the necessary consequence of the incarnation, because it's hard to think of God dying a mortal
Not
death
for me.
as a, I mean.
Actually, I take that back. It's hard for me to think of him living.
Right. Well, it's hard for me to think of him dying.
All right,
and one can see how.
One difference I'd split.
But that's part of the mystery that we're supposed to understand, or at least accept.